We're live. Hello. Hello, everybody. I'm Amanda Call. This is my channel, and we're working on this comic page. This is a first comic page of a short story I'm working on because the other stuff that I normally work on this stream is not at a place where I can share it on the stream. So we're just doing a little cute little side project. I've worked on this for 2 streams so far, and over those 2 streams, we've gotten it completely penciled. So now we're going to start inking it. So I've got my nib pen here. I've got my ink just out of course, I already uncapped it, so I can't, like, show you the label because I would spill ink everywhere, but, it's Kuretake Zig Super Black Ink 60. I'm still not sure if I'm 100% sold on this one. Kuretake has, like, a million different types of inks, though, so I can play around until I find something I like better if this doesn't do it for me. But anyway, we're gonna start working on inking this little scenic bit down here. Just gonna start with inking some of these little shrubs. This is a lot of like wide scenic shots, so there's gonna be a lot of pen and ink work going on in here. So, how is everyone doing? I had a very good, very busy weekend. Oh, let's get that actually in frame so you can see what I'm doing. Might be a good idea. All right. Getting a lot of this little like grassy field texture without building it up too much. Hey, Hungry. Thanks so much for joining me. How are you doing this evening? Okay, let's get back in frame. There we go. I keep on wandering off to that side of the screen and forgetting that, oh, yeah, you guys can't see that. Finally, above freezing here near Seattle. Ah, yeah, you guys just had a wicked cold snap. We are in the middle of a big snowstorm. It was yesterday, like last night, checked the weather and it was like, "Oh, you're gonna get like maybe 3 inches of snow." I'm like, "Oh, that's not bad." And then this morning I woke up and an alert from the National Weather Service had come through at like 3 in the morning and it was like, "No, we lied. You're getting like a foot of snow. And you're getting a foot of snow in about 12 hours." So, like over the course of about 12 hours. So it's gonna come pretty fast and furious, batten down the hatches. So it was coming down pretty ferociously there earlier. It seems to be less ferocious now, but it's definitely still snowing and there's a lot of snow. It's also quite cold, but quite cold is pretty normal for around here this time of year. All right, we've got a nice little rolling hill going on here. An inch or two is enough to cripple the city here. Now, no, we're we're pretty well equipped for snow. There's a lot of stuff that we are not equipped to deal with, but snow is one thing we are very well equipped to deal with. It's supposed to stop by like the middle of the night, so it'll probably mostly be cleaned up. Like the plow crews will be out overnight and then it'll probably mostly be cleaned up by morning. So that will be good. We'll just have like the roads will be cleared and everybody should be fine in the morning. Won't even have a snow day. Although apparently this past weekend, our plow guys our town's plow guy's shop, like, burned down, and I was like, "Excuse me, what?" It was like, "Oh, yeah, burned down." I had no idea because I was at SnowCon all weekend. They were talking about it last night at the selectmen's meeting, and I was like, I'm sorry, what?" Thankfully, none of, like, his trucks or anything were there, and nobody was hurt, and, I'm sure that eventually it will all get sorted out with insurance, but yikes. There we go. There's our little stream. I feel like my pen is getting a little bit gunky though, so we're going to clean that real quick before we proceed. Oh, there's some ink, like, I gotta, like, properly clean this. There's some ink kinda dried on here. It's kinda gross. Okay. Get all the little fluff balls there. All the little fluff balls hanging out in the field. We've got our two little figures running. All right, now we get to do some more trees. More trees. More shrubberies. All right. That looks like it's all that's all dry. Okay, I'm just concerned about wiping my hand right through that very thick spot of ink where the little stream is there. All right, just trying to get a little bit of a subtle kind of shift to the values in the landscape so that you can see that you've got this like rolling hills situation going on here. Hello, Joe. How are you? Good. Yeah, doing pretty well. I had a very good, busy weekend. This past weekend was SnowCon, my local gaming convention, which is always a very good time. It was a little bit of a last minute scramble this time because we had some issues with our what we thought was going to be our venue. Kind of let us know at the last minute, not like super last minute, but as far as planning large events go, several months out is kind of last minute when you're talking about something you've been planning for like a year. But yeah, with not as much notice as we would have liked, our previous venue was like, "Hey, so we're still under renovation. We can't actually host you for this. Good luck finding a venue similar in size and price to us." So that was kind of a challenge. Tabletop gaming. Yeah. So that's lots and lots of board games, RPGs, some miniatures gaming. We have our own kind of Iron GM situation now that we started this year, which is pretty cool. And we have a group that started doing like miniature painting workshops, which was really cool. They did a great job. Oh, that is the Risk. That's a good one. It's a classic. But it was a lot of fun. It's a little bit smaller event than we normally have because we had like the kind of last minute scramble for a venue. And so a lot of we didn't push trying to get a lot of attendance, so a lot of folks did not actually come that might have had we like been slightly more on top of it and able to promote it a little bit more ahead of time. But it was a very good time still. We had plenty of people come. Had a good time. The new venue seemed to work really well, and we may well end up going back there. Get our little village nestled in here. Sounds like it had the potential to be a disaster. Yeah, I mean, pretty much. No, we managed to get it together, and I think and realistically, I've only been on the staff for, like, a couple of years now. This was only my 2nd event being part of the staff, but the rest of the staff has done most of the rest of the staff has been doing this for, like this was our 14th event, and yes, we took a couple of years off in between there, but this is the 14th time they've put this convention on, there's a certain amount that it more or less runs itself once we know where it's going. Which is kinda what I said about the weekend is some of us who were trying to get everything together were panicking slightly, but I was just like, honestly, like, the attendees, they're never gonna know the difference. They're never gonna know that we scrambled. They're never gonna know that we were stressing trying to find a venue at the last minute. They're gonna show up and have a great weekend and everything's gonna be fine, and that's pretty much exactly what happened, so and we have a really great community, really great set of attendees. Do I dress up? I dressed up, for the kickoff party on Friday because I was last year's, uh, regent of the convention, so every event we crown a king or queen of the con, and I was last year's queen of the con. It started as just like a gag, but it turned into a way that we like acknowledge someone in the community for their contribution being a big part of the convention community. So they gave me the honor last year. So on Friday for the dress up party, I was all like dressed up in a very over the top Ren Fair kind of getup, complete with my ceremonial convention plastic crown and um, the cape. Call Queen of the Con, exactly. Yep, I had, so the station came with, regalia that's passed on from each person, and it was a little, like, Party City type plastic crown, a little costume cape, and a big plushy D20, and I did not like the cape, so I actually remade it. Somebody had, like, drawn a D20 on the back of the cape, and so I cut out the part of because it was, like, that really, like, thin, kinda almost slimy feeling cheap costume polyester, satiny costume polyester, like every costume that you buy in a bag from Target feels like that stuff. I just didn't like it. So I cut out the part of it that had the D20 drawn on it and I appliqued that onto what was still like costume fabric, but it was that fake crushed velvet stuff. So that was and, like, made a new, fur collar for it and gave it some decorative tassel trim and everything, so it was a much nicer costume piece, but still had part of the old cape on it, so it wasn't like I completely just discarded the previous cape, I incorporated it into the new cape, so yeah, I wore all of that as my queen costume, and then during the weekend, I'm pretty much just dressed comfortably because I also have to wear, like, a staff t-shirt and everything. And they're long, long days. I was there from, like, 7 AM to 11 PM, like, for, like, a prom queen picture, yeah. We only just got electricity. Oh, funny. Yeah, it's a cheap it was cheap, crappy like, polyester stuff that's just not it just wasn't very nice. The kind of cheap fabric that it's like, you just came out of the package, why do you feel dirty already?" Yeah, it was a very busy weekend, had a lot of, making sure stuff was done and running smoothly and keeping up with stuff and helping people with whatever they needed, and I ran a couple of games. So on Saturday night, I ran, one of the One Ring RPG adventures from, like, the Shire starting mini campaign. That was very fun. I had a very full group, and everyone had a very good time. Yay, there's a little stand of trees and shrubs and things. A wipe cleaning cape? I guess you could flip it around like a big old bib. Yeah, yeah, it's kinda like that. Yeah, the Lord of the Rings game it was very good. I really like the One Ring. I think that and no, I'm not just paid to say that, 'cause I do go to conventions and help Free League sell stuff, but, part of why I like going back to conventions selling stuff for Free League is that it's easy to do because I enjoy their games. I think they're well done. So I don't need to, like, bullshit my way through trying to sell them. It's like, "No, this is good, I like it." "Which one is your favorite here of all the games that Free League makes?" "It's the One Ring." It's easy. Easy, easy peasy for me to tell you that I really love that game. Yeah, it was a good time. We had a lot of fun doing that, and then, on Sunday morning, I ran a TSRPG game, which was my friend Paul's, Midsummer Night's Scheme scenario. So that's based on A Midsummer Night's Dream. You play like Titania's little fairies going around and doing some errands for her, which is that's a fun game because it's like you're pretty much encouraged to just be silly and mischievous. That's the tone. The actual mechanics are incredibly simple, so it gives you a lot of freedom to like think of fun and goofy different things to do. Only right that Lord of the Rings should have a great tabletop fantasy game. It's been inspirational. Loads of Lord of the Rings miniatures to paint, and the Troll Village set. Oh, that sounds so cool. Right? Like, yeah, where on earth would D&D even be without Tolkien? Pretty much nowhere. Yeah, so the current One Ring game is actually the updated version of the old version that had been published by Palladium before they lost the license. And it was just like I played the old version before and like I wanted to like it because I love Lord of the Rings so much, but I just found the actual mechanics kind of clunky. And it never really took off, partially because I think Palladium probably just didn't do a great job like managing it. But also it was just kind of a clunky game. But the when the license was up for grabs again, then Free League snatched it up and they actually hired the game designer of the old Palladium game and were like, "Hey, would you like to work with us and develop a second edition and we'll help you put the nice Free League polish on it?" And he took him up on it. And so that's where the new edition came from. There's still a lot of like similarities to the old one, but it just runs so much smoother. All right, there's another nice little rolling hill. Thanks. No, uh, I've been a gamer for a very long time, and I certainly don't know all of the things, but I try to at least pay attention, and when I learn something, I try to not forget it, like, immediately. Like I said, some of it I've had to learn because, like, I go to conventions and help Free League sell stuff, and so it's like when people ask, like, "Oh, is this related to the old One Ring game?" And so, the first time somebody asked me, I was like, "Oh, I guess I better figure that out," and, that sort of thing. More little round bits on the hillside. And it's 8:40 already somehow, because making all these little dots on these hillsides is takes a while. Takes a while to make all these little dots. Thank you. So it's not a real place. I did use a lot of reference images of different like rolling hillside pasture type areas and kind of composited them together into this one. So definitely takes real inspiration, but kind of mushed stuff together to get the vision I had. Did the same photo composite via Google for forest scenes I was drawing. Spooky Forest, Blair Witch is my nightmare. Oh my gosh, that movie terrified the crap out of me when I was in like middle school when it first came out. And I feel like people don't necessarily realize today that like when it first came out, there was a certain amount of like a genuine confusion about whether or not it was real because they marketed it so thoroughly as a found footage. And this was like before everybody was constantly on the internet. Like the internet was around, but people were not like on the internet like they are now. And so it was like, "Is this real? They're marketing it like it's real." And again, I will emphasize, I was, like, in middle school, so middle schoolers are dumb. And if someone tells you, "Oh, yeah, these people totally died when they and making this movie, and then they found their cameras later," and you're dumb because 'cause you're in middle school, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, wow, that's totally believable." Yeah, yeah, so you're just a few years older than me, because yeah, I was definitely in, like, 7th or 8th grade when it came out, I think, and I remember thinking that it was super terrifying concept, and then when I finally saw it, I was like, "This is the scariest thing ever." And mind you, I've lived in the woods, like, most of my life, so I have definitely been like, "Oh, just walking along in the woods," and then you start hearing weird stuff, and you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna die." Check out the latest Blair Witch, it was scarier. I thought they have drones in this one. Oh gosh, yikes. I don't I don't know. I'm actually, like, kind of a huge wimp when it comes to horror movies. I, uh I'm too much of a wimp. I get scared. I get scared. I usually will watch, like, 1 horror movie around Halloween, and that's usually about all I can take. What was the when I saw, the first Paranormal Activity movie, and I didn't sleep for, like, several days afterwards. I just could not sleep for several days afterwards. That was so scary. And then, like, the second one was not scary at all. It was very disappointing. The second Paranormal Activity was not good. It was just not good. It was unfortunate because the first one was so scary. It'll have to be the new Blair Witch this year. I'll have to find somewhere to watch it. Yeah, I think this year instead of watching or maybe I'll watch it before then because this year instead of watching a horror movie, we just started watching, House of Usher, which was excellent, was absolutely excellent, but it wasn't really, like, scary. It wasn't really a horror. Partially because, like, all the bad stuff happened to people who 110% deserved it, with a very few exceptions. It's like, "Oh, is something horrible happening to another one of these horrible characters? That's fine. This is fine. I don't feel bad for you." So, I don't know, maybe I'll have to try to brave a horror movie before Halloween because I did technically kinda skip it this year. We'll see. It is a pen. It is a dip pen. So anytime that I'm like, yeah, like a quill. So anytime that it is a G pen, yes. I just recently started using the G nibs, and I don't know why I didn't use them earlier because they're pretty fantastic. They kind like this when I got this handle, some G nibs came with it because I like the wooden handles, and my previous um, nib pen holder that had the smaller holder bit there broke. So I got this replacement, and it came with some of the G nibs, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll give them a shot. And they are so good. I don't know why I didn't start using them earlier. But yeah, I have a little pot of ink just off camera, and I go and I dip the pen periodically and get some ink on there, and you can go quite a ways with one dip depending on what you're doing. But at this point, we are now in the last 10-ish minutes of the stream, so I'm going to do the YouTube things and remind you, I'm Amanda Call. This is my channel here on the YouTubes just about every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can find me working on some art. It's usually a comic page. Very often it's a comic page for my webcomic, Age of Night. Age of Night is like wrapping up a chapter right now. Like we're on the last couple of pages of a chapter right now. So I don't want to work on new pages of that because that would be all like spoilery. So I'm working on something different right now. Um, just a little side project, a little short story. Spud says, no, the holiday made me forget today was Tuesday. Oh, yeah, I've been very much in what day is it land a lot today. I feel ya. But yeah, if you want to read my webcomic, that is Age of Night, and you can read it at ageofnight.com. That's AGEOFNIGHT.com. Uploads a new page every Wednesday, and you can read the whole thing for free. However, if you would like to help support me making comics, you can do so on Patreon. That's patreon.com/ageofnight, spelled just the same as the comic. Patrons get all of their comic pages a week early, plus other behind the scenes sneak peeks at stuff I'm working on. Free comics for joining, all sorts of fun stuff. What else? You can also find me on the various social medias as either Amanda Call Art or Age of Night. There are too many to list. And now that SnowCon is behind me, I do not have any other events coming up anytime soon. I am working on figuring out my schedule for the next year. So yeah, if you know of any like cool art fairs, book fairs, zine fairs in your area that you think might be a good fit, let me know. I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing, and like I've enjoyed Comic-Cons historically, but they've been very difficult the last couple of years. So I'm kind of looking to expand out into other kinds of events. See how that goes, you know? All right. I think that's probably a good place to stop this stream. We've got the whole first big scenic panel inked here. This whole panel is done, and then we're going to be doing the next couple of panels probably next week at this time. Brianna says the Auburn Mall is still having those collectible shows that some artists go to. I will have to check out when those are. Feel free to message me, Brianna. I'll have to check when those are happening. But that is going to do it for me this evening. We will continue this next week because I got about like half the page inked, so that's pretty cool. But thanks everybody for coming and hanging out with me this evening. I will see you next time. Bye.